Hi, my name is Caleb Burns. I'm a student at Tarleton State University, and today I'm going to talk to you about my senior seminar internship. My internship was conducted on the J.D. Murphy WMA in Port Arthur, Texas, in which I conducted duck and dove banding and alligator spotlight surveys. It was conducted from May 15th to August 15th of 2017, in which I accumulated 500 volunteer hours. And during this time, I stayed on site at the wildlife management area and in a bunkhouse there. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the wildlife management area that I worked on. Like I said, it's called the J.D. Murphy WMA. It's actually named after a Texas game warden that was killed in the line of duty. He was killed by a duck poacher in Jasper County. And a little bit about the actual biology about the WMA. It is a 24,000 acre tract of kind of some coastal wetland. It includes fresh, intermediate, and brackish water. This WMA is a very important destination for waterfowl management. There's many hunters that come here every year for public hunts, and they manage it in a way that they try to make them successful. It also has compartments within the WMA. I'll show you in the next slide about the Big Hill Unit, a little bit about them, but it utilizes water pumps to raise and lower the water level in accordance with the marsh. And the purpose of this internship was to serve as just a field intern for Texas Parks and Wildlife, in which I assisted the biologists, the technicians on the WMA with anything they needed. These duties range from general maintenance, which includes lawn mowing, weed eating, brush cutting, picking up debris, things like that, to wildlife duties like duck banding, dove banding, alligator spotlight surveys, things like that. And the typical day-to-day duty, I usually would wake up, we'd dove band throughout the day, different locations, and then we'd usually take off a little early, and then at night around 8 to 9 o'clock we would start our duck banding. So here's a picture that kind of represents the Big Hill Unit. This is actually the first unit on the WMA. It was acquired in 1958 with the funds from duck stamps and hunting licenses, and it's about 8,000 acres. The biologist office is actually right in here. This is where the actual infrastructure of WMA is at, and then the compartments are back behind it. And we had the best success here with duck banding. We also tried other locations, but here we had the best success in the Big Hill Unit. Next, I want to show you a diagram of the Salt Bayou Unit. This is another important piece of the WMA. It's around 15,000 acres. We did most of our alligator spotlight surveys here, and they went pretty well. And that's about all we did here. It has Keith Lake, Johnson Lake, Salt Lake, includes things like that. Next, I want to talk to you about our dove banding. This was a very important part of the internship. Two important dates for this section. June 1st, we started off with our white-winged dove, and July 1st, we started off with our mourning dove. This is because of the laws. You can't ban white-winged dove till June 1st, you can't ban mourning dove till July 1st. So we started off with the white-winged dove June 1st. We started around the biologist office, around the Big Hill Unit, and we quickly got out our 50 bands for those. During this, we utilized simple funnel traps, which includes a funnel on each side of the trap, a wire trap, and then with a trap door for the release of the bird. During this time, we caught many non-target species. These include red-winged blackbirds, blue jays, stuff like that, other songbirds that would get into the traps incidentally. And for mourning dove, we started off on that July 1st, and we actually did this at an off-site location nicknamed Hawk Club. This location was in Bridge City. It's actually a private landowner's land that has been in use with Texas Parks and Wildlife for many years. They've banded dove out there for a long time. This summer we actually did not have much success out there. The mourning dove were really hard to trap, and we just didn't have much luck. And the process for this, for dove banding, white-winged or mourning dove, we would capture them, we would record their approximate age, their sex if we could, and then of course their breed, and then we'd band them on their leg and release them to be captured for later statistics. The methods for duck banding were fairly similar to dove banding, is where you catch them and you put a band on their leg, but the approach was very different. Our species targeted was mainly the mottled duck. It's the resident duck that resides on the WMA and is kind of a species of importance. And this began July 1st. That's when we were legally allowed to start taking ducks. And a little bit of the duck banding process. So you go out about 8 or 9 o'clock at night when it's dark, because that's when the ducks are out feeding. If you go out during the day, they're usually hiding and bedded up and basically impossible to find. And for this, you utilize an airboat, in which I'll show you a picture later, but you have someone driving and you have the people that are going to catch the ducks on the front of the boat, in which they lean over the front of the boat, catch the ducks, secure them into a little holding cell, and later they're stopped and banded. And to band a duck, you basically just hold it, tuck it under your arm, and then you grab its leg and use a little crimping tool to band the actual duck. And it's the same thing as dove, in which you record the breed, the approximate age, the sex, and any identifying characteristics that would go towards use in later. Here's a picture of the mottled duck, scientific name Anas fulga. This is our very important species that we watched out for. It's a resident duck that doesn't migrate, as I mentioned earlier. There's two main populations across the U.S. of this duck. One population around Florida and one population on the western Gulf Coast. And that's a major goal of this WMA is to provide for these ducks, and that includes breeding habitat and habitat for raising broods. Here's a picture of the airboat, as I mentioned earlier. You have your big propeller back here that generates the speed. You have your rudders here that allow it to turn very quickly. And one big advantage of the airboat is that it actually can go over land, which many people don't know. So as I showed you in the big hill unit earlier, there's different compartments, and they're divided by little levees in which the airboat can basically jump over them, so you can get around very, very quickly and efficiently. Oh, and in this picture, I'll show you kind of the roles of the people. This guy up here is kind of looking out for birds to band. This guy's the driver right here, and then your two people up front are the people who actually secure and catch the ducks. One more important thing we did were alligator spotlight surveys. We conducted these mainly in the Salt Bayou unit. We had the most success out there. We also tried the Big Hill, but didn't have much success out there. Didn't see many alligators. And the process of a spotlight survey for alligators is you go out about the same time as you do when you duck band, but you're looking for red eyes, which indicate an alligator. And so you try to get an approximate length of the alligator if you can when you spot it. It can be very difficult because sometimes you'll see them far away and they'll dart right under the water. You kind of have to make just an approximation, but you can kind of tell by the size of the eyes. They kind of can give it away. The width of the eyes can kind of denote how big an alligator actually is. And these also started up July 1st. So along with our duck banding, this was another role that started up around July 1st. Lastly, I wanted to touch on management implications of the internship. First question I wanted to ask is why this data is important. This data is very important because it allows TPWD to monitor populations of duck and dove and see their progress over the years. This includes survival, reproduction, raising broods, etc. This is all vital in following these populations, seeing where they're at, being able to set hunting limits and other things. Another thing I got away from this internship was just the ability to see the day-to-day operations of TPWD. There's lots of stuff that goes into it. It's not all fun and games. You have to do lots of general maintenance outside, just cleaning up the WMAs, keeping them clean, stuff like that. And that data that I mentioned earlier, it's used to better the dove and duck populations in a few different ways. It's able to follow them and just monitor their populations, set limits, things like that. I was also able to create valuable internships for the people at Texas Parks and Wildlife. I was able to meet many biologists, technicians, game wardens, work with them, and they were just a big help to me. They tried to make it an educational experience and just followed me along the way. And I was also able to brush up on my general maintenance skills, which just kind of goes into life. It helps being able to know how to do things and just keep up things like that. So I really value this internship. I met a lot of good people. I learned a lot of good things and kind of worked towards my career goals in which I want to be a wildlife biologist. What time is that?